Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is part 5 of What If Naruto Was the Reincarnation of Barragan. If you guys enjoy this What If, and want to see part 6 of it, comment down below, and let me know. The like goal for this video is 200 likes. So like this video, to let me know that you're interested in this series, and you want the next part. Check out my new videos of My Hero Academia What Ifs in my second channel, and give it some love as well. Link is in the description. I have created a playlist for this What If, where you can find all the previous parts, link is in the description. And go ahead and check out other What Ifs in the channel. Before we start, please do support for more awesome content. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like, and also share this video with your friends. So let's start this video. Sarutobi Hiruzen sat in the hospital bed. A vast majority of his body was still in a cast, and a huge beating from Tsunade leaving phantom pains to his body that were healed. It didn't help that his grandson had visited him recently, asking about how the blonde woman with huge boobs, a sign his grandson was a pervert in the making, had defeated him for the title of Hokage. And what was going on with the red-haired kid that everyone has been expressing mixed feelings about. Of course, Hiruzen couldn't answer the boy, since it would open the door to new questions, and the old retired Kage didn't have the courage to answer them. "You look well, my old rival," remarked Danzo after he walked, hobbling slightly with his cane, and motioned for his root shinobi to wait outside. Oh yes, now this particular visitor was here. He tried taking Tsunade's abuse and looked this healthy, countered Hiruzen with Danzo letting out a chuckle. "I'll pass, but thanks for the offer," replied Danzo while moving over to the window to gaze out at the outside world. "Why are you here?" "Certainly not a social chat between two old men about battles long since over," said Hiruzen, while Danzo just scoffed. "I came here to inquire on the current situation regarding the former Kyuubi Jinchuriki and our new Hokage," replied Danzo, while saying the title like it was tainted by Tsunade. "So you can manipulate her with that Sharingan behind those bandages?" questioned Hiruzen with Danzo stiffening slightly. "So you know about it?" "I thought you had gone slightly senile," said Danzo with Hiruzen scoffing at him this time. "Do you really think I am that naive, Danzo? That I don't know why you haven't taken the proper treatment to heal whatever wounds your body supposedly has behind the bandages on your face? Clearly you are the one going senile," replied Hiruzen with Danzo turning to face him with a serious face now. "The woman and the boy?" questioned Danzo while reminding the other man while he was here with Hiruzen sighing. "It's getting worse. The next generation is demanding answers, the public is in an uproar, and that's not even the worst part. Tsunade and Barrigan now know about the account," answered Hiruzen with Danzo's feeble eye widening in surprise. "How? How did Barrigan discover the altered records? I thought the bank statements you supplied to him could not be proven to be altered," questioned Danzo with Hiruzen sighing. "I thought so too, but it's clear Minato and Kushina kept their own set of financial records in their home. He must have compared them to find the discrepancy, and forced the bank manager to tell him the truth about the pilfering. Tsunade was informed of this soon after by Barrigan, and she then asked me about it," answered Hiruzen with Danzo snarling in frustration. "Oh, do you know what this means? Years of planning. Years of preparing to acquire the land rights to Whirlpool Country legally through the money we took, and molding the boy into a naive fool. Gone. Ruined. Kushina denied us access, no matter how much we tried to pressure her into it using sentimental reasons, and Tsunade was out of the question, because she would have told Kushina before they both agreed to leave it alone," stated Danzo furiously with Hiruzen sighing again. "I know, Danzo. Naruto was our last hope in this matter. Every other potential Uzumaki we know could have escaped, has hidden themselves well, and the one here in Konoha is now lost to us. Even if we produced twice what we had acquired to buy the land rights to Whirlpool, an Uzumaki would have the final say, and could take it away from us. Hence why the Fire Daimyo wanted us to be careful regarding Naruto's conditioning, and using the boy to acquire the vast resources of that land," replied Hiruzen with Danzo scoffing. "He would have been better suited for my root program. Made him subservient, and he could have complied easier to our whims," countered Danzo with Hiruzen sighing at this argument once again arising between them. "And I told you, Danzo, that Jinchuriki without emotions are not safe. Besides, even if what you wanted was possible, the international laws of the elemental country states, an Uzumaki can only give the land rights to another country if it is done of their own free will. And done in front of all 5 daimyos present. Not to mention it must be done in a room where the person stands around lie detection seals, which can also detect mental conditioning, and thus we would lose the rights to Whirlpool had we followed through with your plan," replied Hiruzen to Danzo while the Warhawk snarled in disgust. "Emotions are the bane of all humanity. If I ever became Hokage, I would see to it that all things emotional would be removed, and everything would function like clockwork," stated Danzo with Hiruzen letting out a chuckle. "And make Konoha stagnant. Without emotions, we as humans cannot think outside the box, new jutsus could not be developed, and our actions would be predictable. All of our enemies would soon learn how to beat us at every turn," countered Hiruzen with Danzo making some form of facial motion that seemed like half a sneer. As if your plan to make Konoha strong again with a worthy successor that would have surpassed you and the Shodaime Hokage was any better. Your gamble was hoping that someone from Konoha was strong enough to reach that level long after you were dead, and possibly strong enough to control the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, replied Danzo with Hiruzen grimacing slightly at the plan he had created, which he argued in terms of choice to use. And ultimately it had been the Shodaime who won the argument after putting multiple holes in the other man's plan. I was hoping to have Uchiha Itachi take my place when the time was right, since he was strong enough and his Sharingan could suppress Kyuubi easily. But after what happened 4 years ago, stated Hiruzen with Danzo cursing the Uchiha clan for acting so rash in their quest for power over Konoha. And of course your foolish plan in tricking the boy into making that ridiculous promise to one day be Hokage, knowing it was a promise that would never be kept. Not with the instructions you left to be handed to your chosen successor, and a special Anbu unit standing by to kill the brat should the Jinchuriki actually get to sit in the seat of power, added Danzo with Hiruzen frowning. The boy's purpose in life is to serve a Hokage, not become one. I merely gave him the impossible dream to shoot for until he gave up and leave his offspring to do it. Not like that it would happen, since I made a secret law forbidding all Jinchuriki along with their offspring from being Hokage of Konoha, stated Hiruzen with Danzo smirking. The law you would of course make known to the councils and clan heads in the event of your death before choosing a successor yourself, added Danzo with Hiruzen nodding. Jiraiya knew about it. I told him to make it known to you and the others in the event the brat actually made it that far to qualify, replied Hiruzen with Danzo smirking for a brief moment. Well played on your part, Hiruzen. Though considering the boy is no longer a Jinchuriki, we now have a problem with the fact the boy could become Hokage and can repeal your law, stated Danzo with Hiruzen scowling. Everything that I have envisioned in molding Konoha to become an uncontested shinobi village is being cast down before my very eyes. Weakening the Ninja Academy in order to produce subpar genin, letting their Jonin senseis pick up the much needed slack, and using you along with your officially disbanded root shinobi to make the enemies outside the village swell over time is unraveling, replied Hiruzen with Danzo snorting slightly. Tsunade and the brat won't understand why you did what you did since taking office again after the Yondaime's death. They don't believe it's the right thing to do despite our generation knowing better after living through 3 wars, replied Danzo with Hiruzen nodding. Konoha must constantly be baptized in battle. I learned that near the end of my term as the Shodaime Hokage before I appointed Minato to be my successor. After the last war ended, I planned to retire while giving Minato advice on how to proceed and make sure he understood the need to be constantly active. While he understood this to some degree, I also knew he didn't fully agree with us occasionally starting fights in secret rather than ending them after being hit first, and justifying our actions later. When I resumed the position of Hokage, I knew this was my chance to change things with yours and Jiraiya's help when the time came. With Jiraiya's spy network in place, monitoring Konoha's enemies, we could manipulate them when the time was right and make sure they were the aggressors. When the time was right, your shinobi would provoke them into attack us. Our shinobi from the next generation would be thrown into the fires of war, and only those that survived would be worthy of being called leaf shinobi, with the strongest one of them all would become Hokage, answered Hiruzen with Danzo nodding at the twisted, yet ingenious plan the former Hokage had cooked up. Provided our enemies didn't overwhelm us when the war started, remarked Danzo at the plan hinging on their enemies not becoming too strong while the next generation doesn't become too weak. That wouldn't happen. You and Jiraiya would make sure what forces our allies had at the time would be used as cannon fodder, while Konoha waited until our enemies were weak enough to handle by ourselves. By that point, Naruto would have been the humble and a submissive Jinchuriki vessel we wanted with his power, wiping out any potential threats he was told about. By the time the smoke had cleared, Konoha would be on top, a true successor to the title of Hokage would have been chosen, and Naruto would be every bit the weapon we wanted him to be, while finding his dream far out of reach, answered Hiruzen with Danzo smirking at him. By which point, mentioning of Whirlpool would have come along, and he would be too distracted by his mother's homeland to focus on being Hokage. Then with some nudging by the right people, the brat is convinced to settle down, form a family with a few of our own well-placed female kunoichi I recommend to the councils to approve. And we now have a new line of potential Jinchuriki candidates with Uzumaki blood in them capable of holding the fox, when its vessel became too old to hold the demon, added Danzo with his former rival nodding. It would have been glorious. Belief would stand tall, strong, and the chosen Hokage would have eventually decided to destroy the other shinobi villages after a well-placed mental manipulation from one of the Yamanaka clan members you have en route. By the time anyone could even consider opposing the leaf, it would be too late, and history would only what Konoha did for the greater good, replied Hiruzen with Danzo nodding. Yes. It would be glorious. It still can, if we play our cards right despite these setbacks, said Danzo with Hiruzen shaking his head. No? I received word from one of the Anbus still loyal to me currently watching Tsunade, that she is punishing Uchiha Sasuke for his actions after meeting Barrigan. Apparently the Uchiha boy made the foolish attempt in trying to kill him, replied Hiruzen while he glared at Danzo for carrying out his own plan, to spoil the last Uchiha. Damn it. If that weren't bad enough, Tsunade has already released the information about what happened the night Kyuubi attacked, and how it was done at the hands of an Uchiha wearing a mask. I've tried to do crowd control on the matter, while stating it was a rogue Uchiha long since dead, but the damage is already done, and the people are not being so receptive to Sasuke anymore, stated Danzo with Hiruzen cursing. We can't let this continue any further. Tsunade needs to be removed from her position, so Jiraiya can become Hokage, since neither of us is young enough to take the job, stated Hiruzen with Danzo reluctantly nodding. It won't be easy, Hiruzen. I'll need to get in touch with Orochimaru in Rice Country to begin countering this. With the Chunin exams coming up 6 months from now, it would be the perfect time to remove Tsunade in a public fashion, and wash our hands clean of her ilk forever, replied Danzo, knowing the Sannin was already planning to do it, and was secretly helping him with it. Something he was sure his former rival already knew thanks to Jiraiya. We can use it to have Naruto focus his attention on my old student, and Jiraiya can string him along until the time is right where seals can be made to restrain him, before altering his mindset the way we want. Hiruzen stated with Danzo nodding while making sure that when the mind of the brat was altered, it would make him loyal to the Warhawk, and not the former Hokage. I'll make the arrangements, said Danzo before leaving for the door. And while you do that, I will have Jiraiya make some arrangements of my own in using our spy in a certain organization to come after Naruto and his parents. They're the only ones capable of having a chance against Naruto and his family, thought Hiruzen, since he didn't trust Danzo to succeed on his end. It was always good to have a backup plan. With Tsunade. Care to repeat that again? I know Barrigan-sama restored my youth, but clearly I have an inner ear problem, and misheard your request regarding the Uchiha, said Tsunade while members from the Civilian Council along with the Shinobi Advisory Council stood slightly behind them. It's not a request of Kage-sama. We are demanding the immediate release of one Uchiha Sasuke from his detention cell. He is the last of his clan and must be treated with the proper respect a boy like him deserves, stated Hamiura with Tsunade glaring at the old man. The Sharingan is part of Konoha just as much as the Senju clan. To lock the boy up is like spitting on the clan itself, added Kaheru with Tsunade's eyes narrowing. Just like Konoha spit on the Uzumaki clan, questioned Tsunade with the people in front of her scoffing. They're insignificant compared to the true founders of Konoha. The Uzumaki clan only had a hand in the leaf through the arranged marriage your grandfather had with that woman he took for a wife, remarked Kaheru with Tsunade slamming her fist on her desk in anger. That woman was my grandmother, and her name is Uzumaki Mido. Also, you seem to be forgetting the fact it was the Uzumaki clan that gave us the leaf symbol, and that some of the shinobi in this village still wear their whirlpool symbol on their uniforms. Yet this village treats the one here with Uzumaki blood like garbage. Exclaimed Tsunade with Hamiura and Kaheru wincing at their tactical air. That part of Konoha's history has long been forgotten by the populace and shall remain forgotten, since no one cares about the Uzumaki clan. It's a waste of money to keep such memories of an insignificant clan alive, stated one civilian council member passionately, while the others agreed with him. Just as it is to pamper the last Uchiha. I've had all the financial records from every store the boy visited, since you started this little crusade to wipe his ass whenever he needed tissue paper, and my findings had me seeing red. Stated Tsunade while pulling out all the financial records from key stores within the village. What are you talking about, Hokage-sama? Asked one of the now nervous civilian council members. Giving Sasuke free equipment, charging him next to nothing in terms of food when he is out shopping, covering his expenses when eating out, and giving him just about anything the brat could ever want with little to no money being returned in the effort. Did you put him on a tab you have yet to call in? Questioned Tsunade with the people in front of her now starting to sweat. We all believe Uchiha Sasuke would reimburse us once he killed his brother and became clan head, after taking several wives chosen with our help, so the clan could be rebuilt to its proper status and being a major clan of Konoha, answered Councilman Haruno with Tsunade narrowing her eyes at him. Really? Did he promise that to you? Do you know for a fact that the boy will return on your little investment? Questioned Tsunade with each of the council members looking at one another. We would remind him of it when the time came, answered Kaheru with Tsunade just giving her "Are you serious" look. And you expect the Uchiha to honor it? To not say fuck you, I'm not paying when asked to financially reimburse for all the time you spend giving him just about everything he has ever demanded from Konoha? Questioned Tsunade with the council members looking at each other. No, was the simple reply from one of them. You are all bakas. Get out of my office, commanded Tsunade with the group in front of her leaving out the door in a rush. Again Tsunade-sama, asked Shizune after walking into the room, to see Tsunade was slouching against her chair. What do you think? They keep coming in every few hours making demands of me for the Uchiha. Ever since they heard I had him thrown in the cell for attacking Barragan, they have been bitching and complaining about how unfair it is to lock away someone from the Uchiha clan, because he is the last loyal one left. If it had been Naruto, they would be parading in the streets, and not raise a single fuss, answered Tsunade while wishing Barrigan or Naruto would come along to kill these fools. How long do you intend to keep him in one? Asked Shizune with Tsunade sighing. If I had my way, Uchiha Sasuke wouldn't leave that cell until the Yamanaka clan signs off that the boy is sane, which I highly doubt he is due to what his brother did to him, and no form of psychological counseling was done after it happened. Inoichi had expressed his concerns about the boy during a meeting, but my former sensei ignored him, and I suspect it was done for that reason, to make the boy's sanity to be strained until a certain point in time where it would be broken. Though to what end, I have no idea, and part of me doesn't even want to know, answered Tsunade with Shizune nodding sadly. What is going to happen to him? Asked Shizune with Tsunade sighing again. The Fire Daimyo has an invested interest in Sasuke because someone told the man was told about how the Sharingan eyes of the Uchiha can suppress the power of a Biju, and considering we don't have one of them anymore, answered Tsunade with Shizune nodding. The Fire Daimyo wants Uchiha Sasuke to continue his path as a shinobi, and to awaken his Sharingan eyes, to further protect the country, Shizune filled in. Exactly. The Fire Daimyo also wasn't happy when I mentioned what happened with Naruto, and how Barragan killed the fox. He blames Naruto and Barragan for the loss, what he considers his weapon against Fire Country. I had to remind him that Barragan was an entity stronger than Kyuubi, and depending on Naruto's mood when awakening would determine whether the boy would lash out at Konoha, answered Tsunade while Shizune sighed and rubbed her temples in frustration. So the Uchiha get a free pass for now, and the Fire Daimyo wants us to ensure Naruto doesn't go on a rampage, added Shizune with Tsunade nodding. Hence why Sasuke will stay in his cell for 1 week. Hopefully that will give him time to cool off and think straight, stated Tsunade, though she seriously doubted it. You don't really believe that the Uchiha will actually straighten up, do you, Tsunade-sama? Asked Shizune with Tsunade scoffing. Of course not. But the Fire Daimyo overrides my authority on the matter, and only kept it at a week to appear impartial and being merciful to the brat, answered Tsunade, while she wished to smash the smug little man's face into mush. Sadly, she couldn't do that, not yet anyway. Naruto's mindscape. 2 months later. Our time is running short, Naruto. We have another week tops before our souls can no longer be here inside your body, stated Minato with Naruto nodding, and didn't want them to leave. I don't want you to leave, stated Naruto with his mother hugging him from behind. If there was a way to do it, Naruto, I would gladly stay here and fight beside you, said Kushina while Naruto was deep in thought about the matter. Maybe there's a way. Grandpa Barragan, called out Naruto with Barragan appearing in front of him moments later via Sunito. Yes. What is it, brat? Questioned Barragan. Are my parents' bodies still well preserved? Asked Naruto with his parents raising an eyebrow at him. Your mother's body was left untouched in her coffin. Your father's, I had to put my hand through his stomach where the seal was to get to the yin chakra of the Kyuubi, though it might be possible to reverse it with a little help from your godmother and my ability to reverse aging. Answered Barragan with Minato sputtering. You put a hole through my stomach, exclaimed Minato before falling into a state of depression. Oh, shut up, you big baby. I spent months carrying Naruto before going into labor and giving birth, countered Kushina with Minato backing away from her with his hands raised in surrender. That aside, I think if we play our cards right, you can come back to life, and maybe even get stronger too, stated Naruto before explaining his plan to all of them with Barragan thinking it over. Interesting. The bodies are mostly preserved. It should work at least in theory, replied Barragan with Naruto smiling. I want to give it a try, said Naruto before he looked at his parents. I agree, son. We're going to be gone soon, if no attempt is made, so let's give it a try, said Minato with Kushina nodding. I say we go for it. Databane. Exclaimed Kushina with a fist in the air. I'll speak to Tsunade, so we can make the arrangements, said Barragan before he was gone. If this somehow doesn't work, I just want you guys to know that I do love you, and I thank you for everything, said Naruto with Kushina and Minato smiling at him. Hey. Don't talk like that. This will work, stated Minato with Kushina nodding. Damn straight it will. And we feel the same way, when it comes to you, Naruto. We will always love you no matter what, said Kushina before holding him tightly, and Minato joining in. With so little time left for them, it seemed that the best thing to do now was to just hold each other closely for as long as possible. With Barragan, you want me to help you do what? And with whom? Asked Tsunade while seeing the former Spada not look threatened by her tone of voice. The boy figured it out. I'm actually quite impressed. If we heal up the injuries done to the bodies using your medical skills, in combination with my reversing of time, we can then implant their souls into the bodies, and possibly bring Naruto's parents back to life. Answered Barragan with Tsunade rising from her chair and walking to the window. You don't know if it will work, Barragan-sama. It's only a theory and an unfounded one, countered Tsunade with Barragan shrugging. They are all willing to take the risk. They have nothing left to lose. In roughly a week at most, his parents will be gone, and all that will be left is a memory, replied Barragan with Tsunade letting out a sigh. I'll do it, but this must be done with extreme confidentiality here, Barragan-sama. If the councils find out, they make sure every idiot on the planet knows. They'll think we're doing something against nature, and try to stir up a lot of shit. I know you have more than enough power to possibly turn everything and everyone in the world into a rotting corpse, but I would prefer to avoid that at all costs, stated Tsunade with Barragan nodding. Of course, Tsunade-san. If all goes according to plan, our actions might even make the two even stronger than before, and become something else entirely, replied Barragan with the former Espada grinning in an almost evil-like manner. What do you mean? Asked Tsunade with a hint of curiosity in her voice. I can't say for sure, but should everything happen like I think it will, I'll explain it to you, answered Barragan with his smile never leaving him. Hokage gravesite, sometime later. We should start with Kushina first since the fatal wounds done back then to her body are not as bad as Minato's, stated Shizune. Well, Shizune agreed while sending a look to the former Espada that told him it was partially due to his earlier actions. The wound was closed thoroughly enough, a little touch-up won't hurt either, and with Barragan Sama making the body look healthier with his power, should help when the soul is transferred in, added Tsunade while working on the scarred area that had once been the fatal injury caused by Kyuubi during the attack. To the side, Barragan waited patiently, knowing to demand they hurry with their work, that required pinpoint precision would be foolish on his part, and watched the two women work on healing up old wounds. When they finished, Barragan would use his new ability to reverse age to make the body healthy looking to the point where it would still be dead, but only by a few seconds, and after the souls were put in each body, one at a time. The theory of his interactions would bring both of the boys' parents back to life. And that was at the very least. At most the boy would have more than just his parents. She's all set for you, Barragan-sama. We need to get started on Minato on account of his additional injury, said Tsunade, while muttering about doing extra work and hoping this was successful. Very well. Here we go, my dear, replied Barragan, as he sat kneeled before the body of the red-haired woman and put his hand on her chest. Hey, don't get fresh with my wife. You're in our son's body, exclaimed Minato while Kushina's soul left Naruto's body and was heading toward her own. Shut up, you idiot. I require physical contact for this to work, and it must be close to the heart, thought Barragan while Naruto had his eyes closed, and trying to block out the fact his hand was touching his mom there, even though it wasn't by his choice. As for Kushina herself, her body glowed crimson for a moment before a small hollow hole appeared, and a skeletal jaw of a canine-based animal appeared around Kushina's mouth with incredible spiritual pressure being generated from her. The Zanpakuto, in its sheath with a crimson wrapping at the bottom of black hilt, and a fox mouth at the top making it look like the blade was shooting out of it. Barragan raised an eyebrow at the sight of this development. Kushina herself let out a gasp of air, a silent scream wanting to escape her mouth that reminded the former Espada of one Tia Hairball, with both representing how human can die via sacrifice, and use more of his strength to keep the woman down when she arched her back, while moving her limbs wildly for a moment. Kushina, exclaimed Shizune worriedly, while seeing the event unfold before her. Focus, Shizune. Once we are done here with Minato, we'll give Kushina once over, and then focus on Minato again, when Barragan does the same to him, commanded Tsunade with her assistant nodding, and the two went back to patching up Minato's various wounds on his body from what he suffered during the Kyuubi's attack, along with the large fist-sized hole Barragan made to the torso, where the seal had been. She was certain Minato would have some phantom pains from a while. By the time they finished with Minato, they were able to see Kushina had stopped her wild thrashing movements, and was looking around at the area around them. Breathing a little heavily, but for the most part she seemed to have calmed down, and Barragan had explained the reason for the new additions to her form. While initially freaked out by the hollow mask around her mouth, screaming soon after feeling it with her hands, and the sound being muffled in the process. The former number 2 Espada calmed the woman down, explaining that if she focused on the mask, and commanded it to retreat into her skin, that it would obey for a time. The more she did it, the longer the act would be sustained, like a muscle being worked repeatedly until becoming second nature, and the additional powers that came with this change. Changes Minato would also go through, and that Barragan would spend his remaining time before the merger with Naruto to teach them how to control their hollow powers. Their Zanpakutos, and using them would be another matter, since no Arrancar had the exact same power when it came to unleashing such things. We need to hurry. While my own power is keeping hers from oppressing you both, it will be enough to make certain worms in this village take notice of our actions, and send their mindless drones to discover what we've done. Said Barragan, knowing any use of such spiritual pressure for even a few seconds would be enough for agents of his enemies to see the need to spy on them. We're just about done here. We'll give Kushina once over while you focus on Minato, replied Tsunade with the trio switching position where they were kneeling. I'm going to be feeling pain in my torso, aren't I? Questioned Minato with Barragan smirking slightly, while he made the man's body reverse itself from rotting away. Maybe. What do you care? You'll be alive again. What's a little phantom pain to being able to live and raise your son? Stated Barragan while Minato sighed within his son's body before the former Espada put a hand on the dead man's chest to begin the transfer. And just as Barragan predicted, Konoha shinobi appeared, some loyal to Tsunade, while others were loyal to Danzo, and the councils due most of them being en route. Those that weren't en route were loyal to the councils because they had long since hated Naruto and believed that his position as Jinchuriki was meant to be subservient to everyone in the village. Not to mention the councils paid them more, and with incentives that were far greater than what the current or even previous Hokage gave out at the moment. Tsunade, what is the meaning of this? Demanded Koharu, as she saw Barrigan doing something to the late Yondaime's corpse, and was shocked to see Uzumaki Kushina rise from the ground with the bone-like canine-shaped mask covering her mouth. It's none of your business, Tsunade shot back while helping Kushina up, while Shizune handed the red headers on Pakuto. I think it is. This experiment you've been performing here is worse than Orochimaru's own handiwork. You've toyed with the dead, made them into abominations, and you used the Yondaime Hokage along with his wife. This is grounds to have you removed from your position as Hokage, and be charged for treason, exclaimed Hamiura while neither person on the Shinobi Council saw Danzo smirking slightly, since he could use this to nominate Jiraiya to take over for Tsunade. Granted he could nominate himself, but that would put him under the watchful eyes of Barrigan and Naruto later on when the boy had awakened. Danzo was actually surprised this was happening since this wasn't the Ito Tensei, which was a forbidden jutsu made by the second Hokage years ago, and the fact that Kushina was sporting a strange bone-like structure similar to Barrigan meant the former Espada gave Kushina that power. As she could get it, as well as Minato from the looks of things, that meant his root shinobi, and possibly himself could be given that kind of power. It seemed to extend life, maybe even cheat death itself, and with Danzo's own additional powers surgically put in place would make him unbeatable. The question was how to subdue the trio with this power so he could take it from them. Before any further pondering could be done on the situation at hand, more spiritual pressure was released, only this time from Minato, as he arched his body. A piece of hull mask forming over the top right side of his face, that down to one of his eyes with black tribal marks covering the bone structure, and new eye glowed slightly crimson inside. As Pakuto materialized next to the once dead man, in a sheath, the hilt was standard Japanese style with the bottom being slightly spiky shaped like his special kunai he used for the Flying Thunder God technique with the same seal formula engraved into the entire hilt design. It worked. It actually worked. I'm alive. I'm alive. Take that Shinigami Baka. Take that you stupid ineffective deity. Databane. Exclaimed Kushina happily while dancing around happily now, while Tsunade and Shizune sweat dropped to the side of the woman acting this way. Only she would act like this in a situation like this, thought Tsunade and Shizune, before they moved over to Minato, with the man having calmed down from his own body spasms, to receive a proper medical checkup. Holy crap. I never want to do that again, stated Minato, as he was slowly helped to his feet, and let out a groan while being examined. Sensei? Asked Kakashi, as he appeared on the scene. His arm was no longer in a sling, and saw his former teacher standing there adjusting to his newfound lease on life. The former Yondaime Hokage himself was processing everything that had happened in his absence to his son, before turning to look at Kakashi, after the man spoke his name. What do you want, Hatake? Replied Minato coldly with Kakashi flinching slightly. Why are you being so cold, sensei? You're back. You're alive. Konoha is now going to be stronger than ever. Exclaimed Kakashi with hope in his eyes despite only one being seeable. Konoha? Why would I use this newfound lease on life and the power that comes with it to help this pathetic village I once called home? Questioned Minato with Kakashi now looking at him in shock and horror. Sensei, you don't understand. The Kyuubi killed you, killed your wife, and then was sealed in that thing you called a son. Why do you hate me? I'm the only true son you should have had. Why care about that monster, when your son in all but blood is right here standing barely 10 feet from you? Questioned Kakashi before taking a step back when Minato glared harder, and the increasing yet unstable wave of spiritual pressure was covering the landscape. Son? You thought I would see you as a son? After what you've done? After what you did to my true son? After what you pulled in hurting him? Why would I throw away my son by blood for an incompetent fool like you? You're no student of mine. You're no son of mine in any shape or form. You're lower than trash, Kakashi. Obito should have been the one to live that day instead of you. He knew the value of loyalty to a comrade, and to trust in his own perceptions rather than rely on someone else. You're the failure, the nobody, and deserve to die with the rest of the fools in this village. You think I want to take over for Tsunade as Hokage of Konoha? I would rather side with Iwa and burn this place down until not even ashes remain to be blown in the wind. Exclaimed Minato with Kakashi looking horrified by this news. This isn't happening. Minato is alive, but it's not him, and he's acting like I committed some horrible sin against that bastard child he calls a son. I'm his only son. Not that thing beside him. Me. Thought Kakashi while coming to the belief that Barrigan or possibly Naruto did something to influence his former sensei's mind. Kakashi could only come to the conclusion that he would need to break the invisible hold Barrigan had on Minato to change things for the better. To have his former sensei come back to him in open arms and embrace him as his true son, while denouncing the demonic abomination that the red-haired wench brought into the world. What did you do to the Shodaime Hokage? Demanded Hamura with Barrigan just letting his smirk stay on his face, while watching this drama unravel before him. Why are you so surprised? You know Kushina and Minato were in their son's body up until now, heard about how he was abused by this village, have seen his memories, seen how his true potential was sealed away, and how you all betrayed this family in your so-called pursuit of power. Why should this man and woman serve an ungrateful village like this one after all that has happened to their only child in this place? Questioned Barrigan with Kaharu, Hamura, and Danzo scowling at him. That's irrelevant at the moment. Senju Tsunade and her assistant Shizune are both under arrest for crimes against nature. They are to be detained with their test subjects being isolated for study to learn more on what they have become, commanded Danzo before he snapped his fingers and pointed at the group so his shinobi would obey him. And earned a chuckle from Barrigan before it exploded into full-blown laughter. You are a fool to think that you will get your way. I've tolerated you and your ilk long enough. It's high time you finally completed the cycle of life and entered the realm of death where you will face judgment, stated Barrigan with Danzo sneering at him. His words finally making the Warhawk's mind snap, and his patience break at the outright disrespect being given by the former Espada. Even after his talk with Hiruzen on a plan to secretly overthrow Tsunade by calling on the secret ally that was Orochimaru, who had been experimenting in cheating death, so they all as an elite few could benefit from it, while the rest of the world decayed. The Warhawk didn't like the idea of bowing further to those that dared presume they were better than himself after doing so for the last few months. Danzo had outlived countless shinobi, and was one of the oldest shinobi, albeit retired, in all of the elemental countries, while others had died around him. He should have been made Hokage instead of Hiruzen, but the powers that be wanted a ruler with experience, and the Shodaime Hokage was still, unfortunately for Danzo, the most experienced man around for the job. Hence why Danzo held his tongue when he lost the nomination, why he didn't usurp his rival due to the man unofficially allowing him to work from the shadows with Root, and coordinating at times with Jiraiya using the spy network to know where to strike their enemies, to inflame their ranks for the master plan created to manifest itself. Hence why Danzo was allowed by the Shodaime to have the various bloodlines of the Uchiha and Senju clans surgically implanted in him by the now at the time traitor of Konoha that was Orochimaru. The Sannin had never liked being passed over for the title of Hokage for the Shodaime, and only left successfully because the Shodaime allowed it to happen. All the experiments Orochimaru was doing were making a great deal of headway in cheating death, which was what the Shodaime wanted a few years after becoming Hokage again, as he saw himself aging every day he was back in office, and wanted to cheat death to be an actual god among shinobi like the title said he was once back in his prime. Danzo had been brought into it because the man wanted to have that same kind of power, to be one of the few capable of everlasting life, molding the world into the way it was meant to be shaped under their brilliant minds. They were meant to become the new gods of the world, creating a world where the strong few ruled over the weak masses that populated the world, and the Leaf Village being at the center of it all where it would happen. But this thing had ruined everything. Killing the Kyuubi, the strongest Biju, that was the village's trump card against all other Biju had been devoured. The vessel it lived in had become a vessel for the demon's killer, and had disliked what had happened to the boy. This creature was taking everything he, Hiruzen, Jiraiya, and Orochimaru had been working the better part of their later years in life to see happen. Danzo's pride would no longer allow himself be under the thumb of this foul entity, that dared proclaim it was superior to the human race, when humans were the true superior race. They currently had ways to extend life, soon they would even cheat death, and one day truly spit in Kami's face. Someone needed to take a stand against this abomination now or the envisioned future would never happen. I am beyond the judgment of anyone and anything. Even you. For months, this village has been forced to do what you wanted, killing civilians, the village's shinobi, punishing store owners, and vendors for their harsh treatment of our Jinchuriki that you inhabit. The boy is and always was meant to be a weapon to this village, just like all Jinchuriki have been in the past, since the Shodaime Hokage himself gave the Biju to other villages to promote his need for peace. Jinchuriki are even human, just like you, and now the thing's own parents are no longer human as well, meaning that they are to be studied to further advance the village as a whole. To be dissected, torn up, and used as breeding stock to pass the bloodline down to a new generation that will be the future weapons of this village. That is how it works here and everywhere else in the world. You have no right to deny Konoha what rightfully belongs to us, exclaimed Danzo while stomping his cane on the ground during his rant, while Barrigan looked at him with his face, or rather Naruto's face showing the former Espada wasn't impressed. Human greed. We had one like that among our ranks in Las Noches, who was the one that represented how a human died in that manner. He was always among the weakest of the Espada despite his boasting of how many he devoured to become one of us. You and the former Shodaime Hokage are just as pathetic as him, replied Barrigan with Danzo looking at him with anger swelling in his visible eye. Kill him. I don't care how you do it, but kill this abomination, and the other two now. We'll dissect both their bodies afterwards, and study just how they changed, so it can be duplicated, commanded Danzo, as he had finally had enough, and planned to take care of things now before it went beyond handling it. From the cruel smile on Barragan's face, he should have realized that it was way past being handled, and couldn't be stopped. Tsunade. Shizune. Get Naruto's parents out of here. They will need time to adjust to things as they are now. What I'm about to do could seriously hurt them and yourselves, stated Barrigan with his smile growing with each passing second. Right? Let's go, commanded Tsunade, as she along with Shizune left with Minato and Kushina quickly to the Hokage Tower, where the office of the Hokage would be perfect to wait things out with the shinobi there that were loyal to her now quickly leaving. Within seconds of leaving though, Kakashi did as well, and it was clear to Barrigan that the foolish Jonin was determined to do something to reach the boy's parents, in order to convince them he was not the piece of trash Minato accused him of being. No sooner had he left, Barrigan noticed more rude shinobi, and more on the council payroll that were loyal to them over Tsunade, had appeared ready for a fight, while surrounding the former Espada. Is this how you intend to fight me? Sending so many of your pawns here to kill me, while you watch from the sidelines? Questioned Barrigan in a mocking tone to Danzo. I'm a leader through and through just as I am a true patriot of Konoha. Through my own actions I have led Konoha to victory from the shadows. I have outlived other shinobi in the village and even their descendants. I have watched the young grow old and the old become weak before they die. You want to see my power? I'll make you regret this, when I break you and forever make you the servant of this village for all eternity, declared Danzo, as he revealed his Sharingan behind his bandages, and the sealed arm with the combined bloodline of the Senju and Uchiha clan. It only made Barrigan look at him with disgust. What an ugly little creature you are. So many eyes. It reminds me of another Espada, but unlike him, your additional eyes are not a natural part of your body, and I am even going to make an educated guess that the arm is not natural either. It just further proves how low humans will go in the pursuit of power to achieve immortality to escape death's reach for all eternity. Such meaningless pursuits, as the words forever and eternity are meant to bring about false hope to all who fear death. Let me show you what death truly looks like, for it will be the last thing you ever gaze upon before meeting your end here within this very place that symbolizes what happens to bodies once they have been touched by me. Applied Barrigan with his cane turning into his Zanpakuto that was his long and heavy double-headed battle axe that he was wielding with one hand. You'll never get the chance. I must live above all others to ensure Konoha stays the strongest and unopposed for all time. Mokujin. Shichiro no Jutsu. Exclaimed Danzo, as he used his power to entrap Barrigan in the wood prison, and believed such a power that could successfully restrain the Kyuubi could do the same for this creature regardless of its strength. Within moments, rude shinobi swarmed over the prison, putting seal tags everywhere, and took several steps back while waiting for possible retaliation. When there was none, Danzo grinned, thinking the Senju clan's bloodline could restrain Barrigan, and that the same form of restraint could be applied with the Sharingan eyes he possessed. This also meant he could even force the former Yandayume and his bitch of a wife to heal under his power. He wouldn't need Hiruzen anymore, as he could use his future weapons to help in overthrowing Tsunade, force Orochimaru to heal at his feet, and basically annihilate all the shinobi villages with Konoha remaining on top. Eventually, he would easily make the Snake Sanin tell him all the secrets of how to cheat death through the study of Uzumaki child's body, and become like the Reincarnation themselves. He wouldn't even need the aid of Orochimaru in the years to come once that happened, and would be the true god of their shared vision, with true peace happening with his beliefs usurping all others until the ends of time. The old man's crazy imagination stopped running away from him when a cruel laughter echoed from within the prison, and it made everyone go on edge when it got louder with the spiritual pressure covering the entire area. It was so intense that the rich shinobi, the other shinobi supporting the councils, Hamura, Kaheru, and Danzo fell to their knees in pain. The Warhawk's Sharingan eyes were now actually bleeding heavily. The man could swear he could hear screams coming from the eyes of all the Uchiha slain that night by Itachi, and those his root shinobi discovered alive when the man left. You truly wish to test me, don't you, old fool? Very well. I look forward to seeing how your power fares against mine. Rod Arrogante. Said Barrigan within the prison, and his spiritual energy exploded upward, destroying the ceiling of his wooden prison, and within moments the prison itself began to rot away around him. That's impossible. That jutsu was capable of trapping Jinchuriki, stopping any of the 9 Biju for a short time. Even powerful S-class shinobi in large masses could escape that prison if they were all locked away in it. Those seal tags my shinobi placed on the prison enforced its power to contain you, exclaimed Danzo with his eyes staring right at the shadowy form within the prison via the hole made while it slowly rotted away. And what he and everyone else saw brought a new sense of fear into their hearts. They saw a skull, wearing a crown. Around the skull was that of royal robes colored in a fine purplish black cloth that covered everything up complete from head to toe, and only the skeletal hands could be seen past the sleeves. Behind Barrigan, golden chains were dangling. The gold object with an eye-like symbol was along the neckline that acted to tie the clothing together, and the entity was slowly made his way through the hole that was increasing in its decay, the closer he got to it. Now you see me as I truly am and was many years ago, Danzo. This was my form as the king of Wako Mundo during my undisputed rule. In this form, everything I touch can, and will rot before death claims everything around me. That is my power, Danzo, and it is the one true undisputed rule to all things in the universe, explained Barrigan with Danzo taking a step back and went through hand signs. Mokujin, Jibaku Iso, exclaimed Danzo before he summoned a massive tree to bind Barrigan's form, and commanded the tree to bring the entity to the ground, to crush with his power. Only for the tree to rot instantly when touching Barrigan's form. How annoying and pathetic you are, Danzo. I honestly expected more from you. Did you really expect to contain me with that? Using life to bind death? Ha. It would be laughable if it wasn't so pathetic in its usage. Death cannot be bound, death cannot be controlled, it cannot be manipulated or defeated by anyone in existence. Death is an absolute certainty in all things, and it comes to all things regardless if they are alive or not. Plants die. Animals die. Insects die. Structures rot away and die. People die. The two questions regarding death should only be when and how it will happen, stated Barrigan with the tree Danzo summoned turning into nothing, while the shinobi around him began to shoot jutsus and weapons at him in the hopes it would hurt him. I wouldn't be stopped. I wouldn't be denied my right to rule Konoha as its Hokage. I will one day become this village's ruler, and one day be the most powerful man in the world, that the people will worship me like a god. I will conquer you just as I have everything else in my life, exclaimed Danzo while Barrigan let out a bellowing laugh and it showed on his skull face. I don't know what is more pathetic, the dream itself, or the fact that you honestly expect to transcend death and achieve it, replied Barrigan while watching the various projectiles thrown at him, died before they even reached him. Shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. I will win against you, and when I do I will become the man known for conquering death, exclaimed Danzo while seeing the attacks from his forces failing in their entirety to stop this monstrosity. How misguided you are in your belief I can fall by your hands. Not to mention your own forces seem to realize what you do not, stated Barrigan, as he pointed to Danzo's forces, and sure enough they were frightened by the fact nothing they threw at him had worked. What are you waiting for? Attack. Don't let up, commanded Danzo with the shinobi around him along with Kaharu and Hamura seemed hesitant to obey, while Barrigan's spiritual pressure continued to rise. It doesn't matter what you or your forces do against me. Compared to me, you are all ants attacking a god, and like all insects that try to fight a god you will all die. Every single one of you. Know your place, exclaimed Barrigan before he produced his Grand Kaida before he moved quickly to kill all of Danzo's followers, in a series of slashes that made the bodies dissolve into nothing. In the end, only Danzo remained with his face filled with fear, and it was something that Barrigan relished in seeing. Stay away from me, commanded Danzo fearfully while Barrigan let out a chuckle. Though, I have no intention of killing you with my Grand Kaida. In fact, your forces should be honored I did, since I only use it on very special occasions. You however, are not even worthy of having your flesh carved into with my blade. Instead, you will suffer a horrifying end from my dying breath. The spear, stated Barrigan with a black smoking miasma source leaving his hand now extended left hand. Danzo quickly moved away from it, but even as he moved away, the dark life-destroying substance increased in speed, and the Warhawk knew it was only a matter of time before he was caught in the substance. Creating a large wall made of earth, Danzo decided if he was going to die, it would be on his terms, and use the one weapon in his arsenal that would have the power to kill Barrigan. Even then, there was a chance he could cheat death with the power of the Izanagi if timed just right, and seal the monster within his body for all time, with preservation seals being placed on himself to prevent Barrigan from breaking free. He would seal away death's avatar for all time. His name would live forever, even if he did die in the end. I will win against you. If I cannot kill you, then I will seal you away within my body for all time, and live on in spirit through the history books as the man who defeated death itself. Through my actions I will live for all eternity, exclaimed Danzo, as he began to prepare the seals on his body, and Barrigan let out a chuckle. How foolish. Even if you succeeded in that endeavor in sealing me away, it would be temporary at best, and I simply aid your body from within to rot before breaking out of my so-called prison. You think I haven't been trapped in a prison before today? I was in some of the most complex traps ever made that were designed to hold my kind or something like us, until we could be killed. Your plan is using a perverse bastardized version of what has already been tried, and even when I was imprisoned, they never held me long enough to defeat me. So go ahead, and seal me within your body, that will be your mangled corpse. I look forward to making your body rot even further from the inside, stated Barrigan, as his respire was nearly upon Danzo, and saw the seals glowing on the old man's body. I will no longer be afraid of death as I once was as a child into adulthood. I will achieve victory no matter what. exclaimed Danzo while feeling Barrigan's attack reach his flesh along his right leg, while the reverse force sealing symbols on his body were still trying to activate like a time bomb ticking down. Fool. Not fearing death is like not fearing a god. Such arrogance from an ant like yourself will not be tolerated in my presence, exclaimed Barrigan as he targeted the arms of his prey and relished the man now crying out in pain. I am Shimura Danzo. I will conquer death, exclaimed Danzo with his head starting to rot around his Sharingan eye just before the seals on his body activated and a massive explosion filled the area. When it died down, there was only a crater where his body once stood, and there was no sign of life around where Danzo had destroyed himself. Conqueror of death. Ha. Such foolish arrogance. It's amazing he lived to see old age at all in the first place, remarked Barrigan still in his released state, as he was in the air, having used Sunito to quickly escape, and looking down where Danzo had been. For all his boasting, Danzo had failed miserably in his quest to defeat the former Espada, and even his last act of defiance was really a desperate man, fearing what awaited him on the other side. A man who had feared death because all of his goals in life had yet to be accomplished. The man had done everything in his power to reach his goal, except do the one thing he needed, and that was simply reach out with his hands and take it. Instead, Danzo waited in the shadows, made others do things for him, and only lift a finger when no one else could, or there were no witnesses around to tell what happened. Danzo not only feared death in Barrigan's mind, but also stepping into the spotlight knowing that all eyes would be on him, and every move he made would be judged by others within their own minds. Barrigan himself believed that Danzo kept to the shadows for the reason of not being judged, and those serving him had no free will to judge. In the end, Danzo died a cowardly, bitter old man who craved power, and died using it in the stupidest way possible. Turning back into his normal form that was Naruto's body, Barrigan used Sunito to enter the Hokage tower, walking to Tsunade's office, and wasn't surprised to see the foolish Hokage Kakashi standing there trying to plead his case to his former sensei. It was clear though that Minato wouldn't hear Kakashi's words, calling him a traitor to all he stood for. Haren and Obito would be ashamed of him. Kakashi kept on pleading for Minato to listen to reason, how Barrigan had poisoned his mind into believing Naruto was still there, and worthy of being his son. Seconds later, Kakashi was sent flying out of the room, right past Barrigan, and out of the Hokage tower itself. The nerve of that baka, explained Kushina, who from what Barrigan saw of her stance with her right hand in a fist, had been the one to punch Kakashi, and saw her hair waving around like tails like the Kyuubi. Now calm down Kushina-chan. We're still adjusting to our bodies. Don't push yourself, stated Minato with Kushina slowly calming down, though she let out a huff in the process. Fine. Though I'm still angry, replied Kushina before seeing Barrigan and her son's body walk into the room. Our enemies have been significantly thinned, stated Barrigan with the four in the room, understanding what he meant right off the bat. Thank you for everything you have done for our son Barrigan-sama. All of us here owe you a debt that none of us can possibly repay. All we can do is say thank you with our deepest respects, said Minato, as he bowed respectfully to the former Espada, and the others doing the same. Barrigan merely smiled, as he had nearly forgotten what it was like to be treated with the respect and dignity someone of his position rightfully deserved. Aizen never respected him in the slightest. His offering of power beyond what the former king of Hueco Mundo had when they first met was an insult, and while it was true that Barrigan became even stronger, the former Hollow King saw the insult lying behind it. When a king is serving someone else, it means he is no longer a king, but a servant, and Barrigan had swore he would have his revenge one day. Well, that chance for revenge was lost to him given the current situation of things. He had a feeling deep within himself, or rather Naruto's body, with that Uzumaki intuition, that Aizen had failed in his plan to conquer Soul Society. That was revenge enough for Barrigan. You fought with honor, facing certain death, while bringing a child into the world. That takes courage, and as a being of death I respect what you did, replied Barrigan with his smile fading slightly, before he sat in a nearby chair. Something is on your mind, stated Kushina, as she saw him nod, and look at the top of his cane with the fox head. The merger is nearly upon me. Soon, because I use my power in my true form, I will become one with the boy ahead of schedule, and Uzumaki Naruto will awaken, stated Barrigan with the group looking shocked by this. That's good news. I mean, said Kushina, as she didn't wish to offend Barrigan, and the former Hollow King and the boy just let out a small chuckle. It's alright, my dear. I'm not at all upset with your words. It's only natural that you would wish your son to awaken and be in control. As for your own powers, I will help you with what time I have left before the merger, and Naruto himself will too afterwards. As it currently stands, the two of you are now both Reincarnation, and are technically Naruto's fraction, replied Barrigan with Minato and Kushina looking at him in surprise. Fraction? Questioned Shizune. Other Reincarnation that act as loyal subordinates. Several of the Espada had them, including myself under our command, answered Barrigan with the group nodding. What happened to them? Asked Shizune with Barrigan looking at her for a moment in silence. They died in battle, answered Barrigan, but his tone told Shizune not to pry, and stay silent on the matter. How long do you have before the merger commences? asked Tsunade with Barragan thinking for a moment. 2 more weeks. Maybe less, answered Barragan with Tsunade nodding. I see. This actually works well for Naruto. The graduation exam won't happen until the week after you merge with our son. That will give him time to test out what we taught him, and attend some of the classes with the kids his age to bond with them, said Minato with Barragan nodding. Come. We are going home. I have much to teach the two of you about your different hollow powers, and how to control them while I still exist, commanded Barragan, as he got up from the chair, grabbed the two, and was gone mere moments later with them via Sunito. Thanks for listening. I do hope you enjoyed. If you want a next part of this video, like, subscribe, and comment down below, and turn on that bell notification, and also check out the other videos that I have created, and enjoy. See you in the next video. Peace.